that, every freedom infringes on someone else's freedom.
Yeah.
It's just, where do you draw the line?
Mm.
Where at what point does freedom of speech what points and where can you legally infringe upon free speech? There's examples of that, but there's gray areas that are difficult.
Yeah.
Like something like a school is definitely infringing on someone's free speech,
Mm.
legally. But like the DMV, somebody speaking on a bus openly against gays. Is that a place where someone can be arrested for disturbing the peace? In a captive audience again.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, well, we end up with people who have places where they can, if they wish, preach what they want. And you end up with people. There's a particular part of London. I haven't actually been there myself. I have no great interest, but you actually end up with people there preaching of different religions, and Christian, Muslim, you name it. And it's good because at least that way they're able to express their opinions, their views, no matter how radical, extreme. In many cases, fundamentalist very often, of course, and it allows them to have that freedom, but they're not in people's faces. They're not scaring children.
Yeah,
because
you
do
do it in a way that is forceful.
Mm. Yeah.
There was an interesting study a few years ago, and this is really, but it shows you sort of mentality. It was basically did a study on those that were right-wing ideology and left-wing ideologists, like just how strong your left-wing and right-wing was.
Yeah.
And those that were left-wing wouldn't want to indoctrinate another person's kids, but he also wouldn't want someone else to indoctrinate theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But the right-wing people didn't want, say, a Muslim telling their kid that Christianity is wrong. But he had no problem with the idea of telling a Muslim kid that their religion was wrong.
Surprise, surprise. Yeah.
They understood that it was wrong for someone else to do it to them, but they didn't get that it was wrong for them to do it to someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, really. And it's like the lack of ability to see it from the other person's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
That they can imagine being preached to and say, no, I don't want to be, preached to by that religion, just because they don't believe in that particular view. And they consider it perfectly okay to try and do it to people who don't believe in, for example, Jesus. And, that seems to be kosher in their view. And I just don't see how they can actually be that out of touch with reality. Because that's what they are. They're just simply not seeing reality in a broader way. Seeing people as being people. Because I suppose it's the effect of having perhaps, blind faith, belief, devoted towards a particular view, that you view... it's a bit like the all babies argument. The way religious people... well, not the all babies argument, but the argument made by Richard Dawkins, which is that there are no Catholic children, there are no Muslim children, there are no Protestant children, there are no Jewish children, there are just children. Or adapted by Bionic Dance, but I won't go into that debate. The, children aren't religious, and of course that's been adapted even more by Bionic Dance for the all babies are atheist thing. But regardless,
I used to sort of agree with that, but if this new discoveries that are into childhood is actually more correct, the correct one is all children are deists. Because, the current idea of children is that they start out, not believing in God, and then slowly add the idea of God. But looking at actual children, what seems to be is the flip. The children start out thinking everything is like God. And then for certain things that gets left, like all children, think that whatever I know everybody else knows.
It's one of those curious things, isn't it? Yeah.
Like they did experiments with children, like I think there were like 2 or 3, and they'd say, tell a kid, there's a box of chocolates. What's in the box? And the kid says chocolates, and it says, well, what is your mom going to think is in there? Chocolates. And then you open up, and it's rocks. And now the kid, when he asks the kid, what does your mom think? What is your mom going to think is in the box? To say, well, rocks. Because the kid knows that. He doesn't realize that the mom is not privy to information that the kid is.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. You can imagine how the idea of God arose in, nomadic civilization, pre-civilization, really, with the idea of a parental figure, and how that kept on developing and becoming more and more engrossed. So it became an all-knowing, all-powerful super being, Sky Daddy, in the end.
What this study is actually showing is that it's not something that sort of came about. It's just it's innate in people because
right, and the elaboration caused it to be gods.
As we grow older, we understand that not everybody knows this. But then I think what happens is religion just never tell. If you're religious, you're just never told that God doesn't have that level. So God keeps that level at all times.
Yeah, I can understand it from a pet's point of view. I made a point in a video about bionic dance. I used a clip from the Wizard of Oz, of the Wicked Witch of the West, I think it was, and it's basically where she's saying to Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz, "I'll get you and your little dog." And then I made the point about all dogs are atheists, and I thought, sort of like a mocking thing, really. But I thought it'd be an interesting point just to imagine if you were a, thought experiment, as if you were a dog, if you were an animal, a pet, look after from, the age of, being a puppy, basically, by a human being, know nothing else, and being given all it needs, and if it acts well, if it acts good, it gets things in return, and in comparison, that if between a small dog and a fully grown human, you can imagine how they would see us as being, godlike in a way, at a push at least.
Yeah, no, I think for the most part, dogs tend to think of this more as other dogs, like we're part of their pack. They just see us as big, hairless dogs.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if we then go beyond that, from, mammals which aren't too much smaller than us in most cases, to things like, say, I don't know, perhaps hamsters? I don't know. Also, imagine if you were an ant on the finger of a human being. And if you were an ant, I mean, this is merely a philosophical point more than anything else, that looked into the eyes of that human, or looked in the direction of the eyes of that human, not really perhaps knowing, what would you think of that human? I mean, I'm cannibalising a few ideas from some religious friends in the past who would have said a similar thing in the size of the universe. Looking at the universe, you would not know God as an ant looking into the face of a man. But still, the argument in reverse is that, more the literalistic version of the analogy is that from the perspective of something very small and without the ability or abilities we have, we would seem to be something far greater than merely the same as what they are, or being akin to what they are. And that links back again to your point about a baby or a small child seeing their parents as being the knowing giver.
And it's sort of, There's an old I think it's Arthur C. Clarke's statement: technology, 1,000 years more advanced than us, may look like magic.
Yeah, I think I've heard. I'm trying to remember the precise quote, but yeah, I know the one you mean. It is equivalent to a lack of understanding of a technological solution may appear to be magical. He didn't put it across in that way, but that's my my decoding of it in language I would prefer.
But there's also an interesting reverse of that, which would also be equally true.
What's that?
Is that it was something Dean Koontz mentioned in a book,
Mm-hmm.
and I really liked it, which is, in a world of reason and knowledge, magic would look like technology thousands of years more advanced.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the reverse. How would you know, like, and this is why I don't think I could ever believe in a God, because how could I ever know that it's not technology or an advanced non-godlike being? Like, you could fake anything God could do. Even things God could do that you couldn't do, he could at least fake it.
Yeah, that's true. And it's an interesting point, because imagine as well if technology reached such a level that technology wasn't actually needed anymore, where you could actually, through adaptation of a life form in some way, shape or form, give them an ability which would make them, well, basically able to manipulate reality around them, or even reality beyond that level, essentially creating a god, if you like. Because if technology could reach that level, that would be, some magical trillion-year idea of the future, which would never happen, probably. But still, it's that kind of idea that if eventually it could reach that kind of level, so sufficiently advanced technology would actually be magic.
Yeah, like I said, but also, if a God does exist, would you ever be able to tell him from something, like I said, really advanced technology? Maybe the God exists, but, you wouldn't. That's sort of that creates sort of the problem, the paradox. So there's nothing God could ever do. I think the closest thing I figured that God could do to actually prove himself, that would be the closest thing that couldn't be faked, or at least not faked easily, was give me infinite knowledge for a few moments. Something that the human body, regardless of how much technology you have, shouldn't be able to do.
Yeah.
The holodeck can fake a lot of stuff. Well, you have God make the universe disappear. Well, the holodeck can do that.
Yeah.
It can just make the world appear to disappear.
That's true. It's a bizarre thing, and of course, people talk about contact with various spiritual forces, and it can be replicated. I forget the name of the helmet. There's a helmet which creates a electromagnetic field around the head when worn, and it causes hallucination. I believe Richard Dawkins has used the helmet, but he didn't actually get any result from it. He's one of the few people that aren't susceptible. About 20% of the population aren't. And they have hallucinations, they see gods, they see all sorts of things. And basically, it's simply a question of manipulation of the person to see something which is, obviously not actually true. And I suppose in the end it comes down to, you may be familiar with the philosopher Descartes, who basically had the idea that you can never truly know that reality is what it is. You can't be truly sure of anything in reality apart from your thought that reality may exist, or that your mind is within reality, but then again you cannot be sure that your reality is actually true. It's really bizarre philosophy. It's